we're gonna go ahead and get started. Make sure you got your cell phones on vibrate, so we don't have a bunch of, I just have to pull around. John, you wanna say the prayer for us?
Yes, thank you. Father, we come to you. We come as humble as we know how, obedient to your will. We realize it's stormy outside, but God, we pray for peace in our meeting. We pray that we can all have a tendency to feel the peace, the joy of you, the joy from your heart to our heart. God bless this meeting. Give us all wisdom. Father, we'll praise you. In Jesus' sweet humble name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everybody for coming. It's good rain outside. Start out approval of the previous minutes and the budget workshop session. Do I hear a motion to approve those?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second.
Last meeting.
Chuck Larry, second. Okay, now I'm gonna open up for the public hearing restriction of truck traffic on Old Kentucky Turnpike. I'm gonna open up the floor.
And that is specifically to consider making a formal request to the Commonwealth Transportation Board to prohibit the use of Old Kentucky Turnpike for through traffic by any truck or truck and trailer or semi-trailer combination, except for a pickup or panel truck or authorized government vehicles, so as to promote the health, safety, and welfare and assistance of town in the Commonwealth pursuant to section 46.2-809 Code of Virginia. And it might be noted that the alternate route to through trucks would be Indian Creek Road and Cedar Valley Drive.
Any comments? Y'all got anything? I talked to VDOT, the guy drove up from Bristol today, and he said to make sure we did have through trucks. That way if Lowe's had to bring you a washer and dryer or stuff like that. So I told him I'm pretty sure that they probably had.
Local deliveries.
Right.
Not through traffic.
Right.
Is there any way we can deter the tractor trailer traffic during school hours going through school zones on Kentucky, on the Cedar Valley Drive?
Are you allowed to do a restriction for time?
No, the alternate route will be Cedar Valley Drive. That's where all trucks will go 24/7 when that restriction goes in, which includes school traffic time. But it's a road that's much wider than Old Kentucky Turnpike. We have traffic officers out there working it, and there's a school on Old Kentucky Turnpike also where we're having a problem.
Well, I'm all fortunate down on Kentucky Turnpike. There should never have been a route for them to begin with. It was going that way to get out of the school traffic, or the main school traffic, for some. I was just wondering if there was any way of deterring them from going through our school zone during school hours, during loading and unloading the kids, so. But if there's not, there's not.
Not this year. The notice was just for Old Kentucky this time.
Want to bring it up for
Where's
conversation?
most of our traffic coming out of there with big trucks? Where's it coming from?
Amazon.
Are they hauling coal through here or gravel or?
Call to Knoxville. To my knowledge, is that right?
Plus Old Kentucky's on their paving schedule for this year.
Right.
And they also went back to the 2013 the approval they got. They're gonna use it to fix those pipes, and they did get approved to run them pipes all the way to the creek. So it was stopping about that far from the road. we met them, so all that'll be taken care of, and it'll help the water problem too.
Thank you, appreciate that.
So, the pipe's higher than the road, or the drain, it's a little higher, so it's making the water come to y'all's house. So once they pave it, the pavement will be higher, it'll drain to the drain. And then if that don't fix it, then they're gonna work with us.
Okay, thank you, we appreciate
Yeah,
that.
sure. Is there any more public comments about the restriction of truck traffic? If not, I'm gonna close the public hearing at this time.
I'd like to make a motion that we request state action to restrict truck traffic through the Old Kentucky Turnpike traffic on that road.
Yeah, that's the request state action. What's next on the? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? You already had it.
I got a little.
No, I haven't had it.
The statute says that you can prohibit or restrict, so I guess we need to make sure we know what we're saying here. If the motion says restrict, then that wouldn't prohibit. That means you're gonna have to decide what the restrictions are.
So we should say, the motion should say prohibit.
Well, if that's what you want.
Well, that's what the ad that you ran said,
Yeah.
to prohibit the use.
Well, that was what we talked about the last meeting.
I mean, I would think you want to allow, say, a moving van, van lines or somebody, try to maybe occasion something, or moving a bulldozer or something of that nature, if it had to be down there.
Yeah, this not for local access, it's through.
Through.
Of course, and Mr. Carmen, we can get you to word that request letter to the Commonwealth Transportation Board. if you
Do
want.
we need to change the
If
motion?
you all vote on it, yeah.
So do we need to change one of the motion?
Well, yeah.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion I made, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
To prohibit.
I'd like to make a motion that we prohibit the
Through traffic.
request to the state
So you're gonna take out.
to prohibit truck traffic on the Old Kentucky Turnpike.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah. John?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Terry said.
Okay, next on the agenda is the public comment.
Tim Altizer, 205 Old Kentucky Turnpike. The agenda item called payment of costs due to Altizer accusations should be renamed payment of costs due to holding retirement plan checks. There would have never been an indictment without the holding of these retirement plan checks. The question of whether the taxpayer may be held responsible for these attorney's fees becomes a simple one, where the elected representatives of the people, the town council, made fully aware and approved the holding of these specific retirement plan checks prior to it occurring, or was the holding of these checks a unilateral decision of the town manager that was done without the knowledge and consent of the town council, who only became aware once I complained of it? Only 3 of you have personal knowledge as to what really happened with the holding of these retirement plan checks. That would be Mr. Brown, Mr. Trent, and Mr. Herron. The rest of you were not in office in 2010 through 2013 when this occurred. I approached the 3 of you and 2 other individuals who were then members of this council, and when I initially found out about the holding of these checks, and no one seemed to have any knowledge of it at all. Mr. Herron, who was then mayor, during his sworn oath deposition was asked, "Did you know that there had been a long-standing pattern of holding checks?" His answer was no. When Mr. Herron was asked, "Is it true that the town council officially has never given any direction to Mr. McLaughlin to hold checks that were the withholdings to be sent to the retirement plan?" His answer was, "As far as I know, they had no idea that these checks were being held." When Mr. Herron was asked, "How do you allow him to get away with making a decision to withhold sending off checks that the town council had authorized for payment for months at a time?" Mr. Herron's answer was, "We didn't allow him to do that." There are other avenues for the town manager to attempt to recover his attorney's fees and any damages he may have suffered as a result of this indictment. If Mr. Carmody did approve the holding of these specific checks and it could be proven he failed to exercise an ordinary degree of professional skill in giving that advice, the town manager could attempt to recover from Mr. Carmody. If the town manager feels he can prove that the special prosecutor, when in front of the grand jury, knowing that there was no reasonable probable cause to believe a crime had been committed, then he can attempt to recover from the Commonwealth. If the town manager feels that I had no reasonable probable cause to believe a crime had been committed, or if he feels he can prove that I lied or provided misinformation to the state police investigator, he can attempt to recover from me. To put this debt of the town manager's attorney's fees on the taxpayer without this council having had full knowledge and giving full consent to hold these specific retirement plan checks, in my opinion, is inappropriate. Mr. Smith stated last month that he's presuming that everybody advised this, and that if my people are doing what I told them to do, I think I'm liable. Mr. Smith, and particularly Mr. Smith and Councilman McLaughlin, and the people of Cedar Bluff deserve to know openly, publicly, and transparently if the holding of these retirement plan checks, which had been approved for payment, was an action of the council or a unilateral action of the town manager before the vote would be taken this evening. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Any more public comments? Anyone else? Okay, moving on, we have the renewal of contract for audit services, Thrower, Blanton and Associates.
Our procurement policy stipulates that a contract for professional services may be renewed without bidding for a maximum term of 5 years. We previously had a 3-year contract with Thrower, Blanton and Associates, and that contract expired with the fiscal year just completed. So they have submitted a proposal to continue those audit services for 3 more years, 3 additional years. Next year at the same cost of $6,000 that they've been paying for the past 3 years. The following year for $6,250, and the third year for $6,250. And I would recommend that they've done an excellent job. I would recommend that we renew our contract for a 3-year term with Thrower, Blanton and Associates for annual audit services.
You need a motion, Jim?
Yes.
I'll move we keep it. I'll second that.
Mr. McLaughlin. They've already had a second, we're just voting on it now.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is payment of costs due to Altizer acquisitions. Is there any discussion?
I would like to say, issues that were just discussed in public comment, all of those issues were addressed at length in a very lengthy lawsuit that the Altizers brought against the town several years ago. They were addressed quite effectively by the Commonwealth's attorney in the suit that was brought against me. It was made clear there was no grounds for those accusations. As to the council, not only that were they informed that we had to hold checks during a period of time because no money was in the bank, which was not just pension plan checks, it was checks to various vendors. And not only that, I took the checks in and visually showed them to the council in closed session meetings. Whether or not they chose to go through every check and see who they were is their decision. They were actually shown the checks and were fully aware. During that time, we were told repeatedly the checks were being held, so the comments made were not true.
Any more discussion?
I would like to state that as been mayor for 2 terms, I have never found anything done to make me support that Mr. McLaughlin would not inform everybody. Before I started coming back to the meetings, it was street knowledge that the council had been notified, that the lawyer had been notified, that the mayor had been notified as to the intent of those checks. And I personally made a statement that I feel like our town manager should be reimbursed. I still feel that. I make a motion that, I will make a motion a little later in the meeting, that we do that. I would like to state that since, and I see several judges here that have wrote in this that have made comments that Mr. Altizer and Ms. Altizer have never made any objections to anything in any meeting up until dismissal of his wife. Since I have been coming back to the meetings, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever, every week we are being addressed by one complaint or another toward our town manager. I feel like I have went in several courtrooms. I have seen scales balanced in lawyer's office that balances things out. The law is a balance. I feel like that what we're having here from Mr. Altizer is one-sided. Every meeting is something to go after our town manager. I feel like, as this letter here stated, from people of authority that investigated this and said there was no lawsuit, and they say that the Altizer would potentially be exposed to a malicious prosecution allegation if this matter progresses further. I think that Mr. Altizer has his rights to pursue and do. But there is a balance of law. We have our rights too, and we cannot have the mayor or the council or our town manager or our lawyer being attacked every meeting from Mr. Altizer. It is disturbing, it is emotional, it is preventing us from doing our job. We are having a hard time doing things that's been going on in this town, assumedly for years. We've had meetings and got things done. Since the removal of Ms. Altizer, all I can see this council's done, correct me if I'm wrong, is discuss allegations against our town manager. I think that we're getting allegations here that can be turned again, the Altizers, and some correction should be made by the council and looked into. Now, I'm a friend, have been a friend, I'm still a friend in the future, would like to be a friend to the Altizers. But I've looked into some things a little bit, and I have found no backings of where the Altizers have worked in a professional building, have done anything productive for our community in a public job. The only thing that I seem to find out is they dress good, and I commend that. They ride good, I commend that. They've got a clean place, I commend that. But the only place that I found of employment is that they were involved in the biggest marijuana dealership that we've ever had. That may be funny to you, but it's not funny to me.
Or me either.
When my back records shows me that they possibly spent 5 years in confinement due to this, I saw no other record anywhere. I stand to be corrected of where their employment comes from. I'm not stating it's wrong or bad. I'm saying somebody needs to look into it. If they can continue to look into us on that thing, somebody needs to look in on them. I would think that due to my conversation, there will be people looking in at me. I have been here 75 years. I have never said a bad word out of my mouth in over 50 years that my wife, my children, nor you, nor this community, or anybody else has ever heard. I have never wrote a bad check. I've never had a bad debt. I have never drunk a beer. I have never drunk liquor. I've never smoked a cigarette. And I don't care who digs in on my record. But this law ought to be balanced somewhere to get this thing off of our town manager. He or no one else can stand this pressure month after month, after month, after month. So I would please beg, instead of going after the town manager, come after me a little while. Give the man a few weeks or a few months break, and then leave me alone after you get through. Thank you.
We're open for discussion on
Yes,
that.
yeah.
What would be the determining factor on the final balance of the payment? Well, I mean, do you have an invoice from the attorney, or, I mean, how do we manage to?
I stated that last month. My invoice from the attorney was for $7,500. I had to withdraw $10,000 from my retirement plan to pay that because they withheld 25% taxes. So to get to $7,500, I had to withdraw $10,000 from my account.
It's a question I'm asking, so
And
there'd be we have documentation for the invoice, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There'd be, I mean, that's.
I would make a suggestion, if I may. We've got a truck coming up that was donated to the town, if I understand right. I would have thought we would have got $10,000, $12,000 out of that truck. It seems like that we got that truck through work of our police chief and Mr. McLaughlin's help and others. And now we're selling that thing for $27,000.
$25,500.
How much?
$25,500.
$25,500.
We've already got a check on it too.
I would think that we should take $10,000 out of that. It's not taking any money away from the town outside of what our police chief has worked on getting things donated to us. Our town manager has assisted him in some of that. I talked with him about it. He took very little credit for it. But I'm sure he assisted in that. He's the best I've ever saw of getting grants and things for us. He's got grants of millions of dollars for this town. If we got something donated for nothing and getting $25,000 and something out of it, I see no problem with taking $10,000 of that and making the burden lighter for him on his lawyer fee. Thank you.
And that's that, John, before we knew that we could accept that second bid. I talked with some counsel and everybody was pleased that we got a $15,000 bid.
Right.
And because of the error in the engineer's bid, we got a $10,000 windfall on that.
Right.
And I'm in agreement.
And it's not a dime out of the people's money. It's all out of money that a few of our people have worked for and got grants. And they did it not because it was required of them through their job. Our police chief is doing a good job. He's not required to work on grants. He did that on his spare time to help the town. And our town is privileged to have people that have taken in millions for this town that was not required of them in their job order. They just did it because they want to take time out to help our town. I'm not talking about pennies, I'm talking about millions. I hope we don't have to go back 27 years and dig up all the papers. It's been for every grant we've ever got. But we've got plenty of grants in this town since Mr. McLaughlin has been the town manager. Thank you.
And I want to say again, you know, here 5 years later, the Altizers are rehashing the same accusations here tonight. The Commonwealth's attorney said, to use a sports analogy, the court did not rule that the town scored more points than Mrs. Altizer. The court ruled that Mrs. Altizer did not meet the criteria to actually step on the playing field and engage in the actual competition. In other words, they made it clear those accusations had no basis to ever be made.
Can you read that verse 3 there for me? I presume you're on the same thing that I was.
What is it?
At verse 3, you may be in a different papers than what I was.
Do you have something, John?
No, it's waiting on lunch.
Yeah, yeah.
30 minutes.
Give me just a moment, thank you. Third verse here, where it's replying back that they found no accusation against Mr. McLaughlin, says third, after considering the facts pattern, and as alluding to it, the two federal court rulings, there is an undertone of an effort to use this prosecution as a retaliation for the firing of Mrs. Altizer. Now, I'm talking about judges here who wrote this. Most concerning delayed that poses occurrence for several quarters, yet no complaint was made until to Mr. McLaughlin, reprimand of Mrs. Altizer regarding her job performance. Mrs. Altizer is the sole town employee who was raised an objection to the action of the town. The Altizers would potentially be exposed to a malicious prosecution allegation if this matter progresses further. The way I'm reading that, they're opening herself up to a suit against the town for what they were doing to our town manager. Thank you.
And there was more of my own personal money in those checks that were delayed than there were the other employees. I didn't lose anything with the delay, and you can't mail checks when there's not money in the bank to cover the checks. Council was well aware of that, and that's why I specifically kept them aware of that.
Any more discussion?
Well, it also makes it difficult when you don't get your cash reports daily like you should have too. And
Sometimes as much
you
as
don't know
we,
how much money you got in the bank to spend. And, there's a lot of things comes into play.
sometimes it would
That's
be,
one of them.
sometimes it would go a week or two that I wouldn't get the cash reports.
And, you know, since we're on the subject, I tell you, I'm disappointed with our local newspapers. You only hear one side of what, I mean, just like he's recording this meeting here right now. Well, what you're gonna read in the papers is nothing what we say, it's what he says, and that's all you hear. The people in this town deserve to hear the truth of how all this come about. And I think we need to make an effort to get the truth out there, because it looks like our local papers are not gonna do it. So we're gonna have to do it ourselves. And, you know, it's just disheartening the way things are going, and some statements were made at the last meeting concerning their property taxes. They went several years, they didn't pay the property taxes on time. They never paid no penalties, no interest. People need to know this. And it was mentioned in the last meeting, but you see anything in the paper about it? Nothing. So you need to get on to your local newspapers too. And get the truth printed, but the truth will be put out there. That's all I got to say.
The Voice has invited everybody onto the radio show. Do you want to see if I can get you on Friday? I think that's when they're gonna do it.
Well,
I mean, they invited us all.
just like Earl says, these opinions are my own, and I'm entitled to my own opinions, so.
That's what I'm saying, they're wanting to, if you wanna.
Well, you don't know then if it's gonna get put in the
Yeah,
paper.
well, they've been on the radio. It'd be way
I
to
mean,
get-
I understand they have the right to edit anything that's put in their papers. But there's so much bias against the town of Cedar Bluff that it's ridiculous. It's getting to the point where it's really ridiculous.
Just don't buy the paper, that's what I do.
I don't. Don't buy the News Press or the Voice, either one of them.
Same thing. I like being on the radio. When is this thing?
Friday, let me get you on.
Friday, what time?
Oh, I'm in my meetings normally about, it's either 9 or 10.
Is that the Earl Cole?
Yeah.
I'll talk to him between now and then. We'll see
Okay.
what's going on.
Yeah.
I like the radio myself.
If there's not any more discussion, do I hear a motion?
Did you get a second?
I hadn't had a motion
Oh, okay, I
yet.
thought you.
Did you make a motion?
No, we
We didn't
ready?
have a motion.
Have we
yet.
closed?
I guess.
I'd like to make a motion that we,
I make a motion that we reimburse Mr. McLaughlin, thank you, yes, sir.
I'll second that.
Oh, hold on just a minute. So the original motion was started with,
Okay, that's fine, I didn't know we did, yeah.
okay.
I'll succeed to Mr. Smith.
Okay. All right.
Aye.
Okay, since, before we start this vote, the only question I was asking Carmody, are y'all gonna pay 7,500 or you gonna pay 10,000?
I think we should pay 10,000, that's what it's
So
costing.
you need to make a motion to pay 10,000, and also, are you gonna pay it one lump sum, or are you paying
I
payments?
make a motion that we pay him 10,000, I make a motion, with that motion, that we take it out of the money from this truck that we've sold and not affect any money from the town that people personally have put in there. So I would say one check out of the truck fund that we're selling, and we're still gonna clear 15,000 some dollars.
Okay.
That costs nobody nothing.
Did you make the second? Sure did. Sure did, okay.
Aye.
And I hope everyone can see that that's just another blow to this town. In addition to the tens of thousands of dollars the Alkizers have already cost us and our insurers. And that's really sad that you have a convicted drug money laundering felon who thinks it's funny up here trying to give it financial advice, attacking the town nonstop for 5 years, costing the town and its insurance tens of thousands of dollars, and pretending to somehow be doing something good for this town. If it was up to me and I had the authority, there would never be a convicted money laundering felon who pulled time in federal penitentiary sitting on this council.
And he thinks it's funny, he sits out here and laughs about it. That's what irks me more than anything. He sits out here and laughs about it. He knows he's upsetting everybody. And, you know,
Well, you saw the election in West Virginia. Mr. Blankenship was, I think, a convicted felon. It was in the news front page every day. They educated the voters on that, and I think he ended up losing, but that's politics.
Okay, next is the ordinance section 38-1, adoption of state law. If you'll read that.
Be it ordained by the council of the town of Cedar Bluff, Virginia, that section 38-1 of the code of the town be amended to read as follows. All the provisions and requirements of the laws of the Commonwealth contained in Title 18.2 Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, as enforced in effect on July 1st, 2018, or as added to, repealed, or amended in the future, except those provisions and requirements which by their very nature can have no application to or within the town, are hereby adopted and incorporated into this chapter by reference and made applicable to and within the town. All such provisions and requirements as set forth in said laws of the state as enforced now or enacted hereafter are hereby adopted, mutatis mutandis, and made a part of this chapter as fully as those set forth at length herein, and it shall be unlawful for any person within the town to violate or fail to neglect or to refuse to comply with any provision of Title 18.2 or other applicable title of said code which is adopted by this section, provided that in no event shall the penalty imposed for the violation of any provision or requirement hereby adopted exceed the penalty imposed for a similar offense under Title 18.2 or other applicable title of said Code of Virginia. And we normally get a motion to waive second reading, adopt this under emergency clause to take
You don't
effect.
need emergency clause.
Okay, but
It
adopt it.
doesn't take effect until July 1.
Okay,
Okay, I need a motion to waive the second reading and adopt July 1st and have me and you both sign.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Terry, second.
Terry, second.
Aye.
Okay, next is, you sign it now.
no. we
Okay,
can-
next is the ordinance 66-1, adoption of state law. Yeah, we get to-
Be it ordained by the council of the town of Cedar Bluff, Virginia, that section 66-1 of the code of the town be amended to read as follows. Pursuant to the authority of the Code of Virginia, section 46.2-1313, all of the provisions and requirements of the laws of the state contained in Code of Virginia, Title 46.2, That's Code of Virginia, section 14.2-100, and in Code of Virginia, Title 18.2, Chapter 7, Article 2, Code of Virginia, section 18.2-266, as in force and effect on July 1, 2018, or is added to, repealed, or amended in the future, except those provisions which are contained in this chapter, and except those provisions and requirements, a violation of which constitutes a felony, and except those provisions and requirements which by their very nature can have no application to or within the town, are hereby adopted and incorporated in this chapter by reference and made applicable within the town. References to the highways of the state contained in such provisions and requirements hereby adopted shall be deemed to refer to the streets, highways, and other public ways within the town. Such provisions and requirements as set forth in said laws of the state as in force now or enacted hereafter are hereby adopted, mutatis mutandis, and made a part of this chapter as fully as set forth at length herein. It shall be unlawful for any person within the town to violate or fail to neglect or refuse to comply with any provision of Code of Virginia Title 46.2 or Code of Virginia Title 18.2, Chapter 7, Article 2, which is adopted by the section, provided that in no event shall the penalty imposed for violation of any provision or requirement hereby adopted exceed the penalty imposed for a similar offense under Code of Virginia Title 46.2 or under Code of Virginia Title 18.2, Chapter 7, Article 2.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to waive the second reading and adopt for July the 1st on that one too, right? July the 1st, and for Mr. McLaughlin and I to both sign it.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Secretary.
Aye.
Aye.
And Crossroads, next Crossroads engineer's not here tonight. Is there anything that you have for them?
No, we are working, I'm not sure if you have it in your report or not, but we are working on additional phase one of that project on Farm Road. I think Tim will be mentioning it in his report.
Okay.
Did they write that letter to Richlands concerning?
They're, if they haven't already got it out there, they are preparing that. And I have also discussed with Richlands that issue on the sewer meter readings, so I've been in contact with them, and the engineers are working on it.
Who have you been talking to, Jim?
Tim Taylor.
Do y'all feel like there's some type of relief on that, or?
Well, I brought my concerns to him, and he knows what our concerns are, so, you know, he really didn't say a lot, but he knows he's going to get a letter from our engineers. So, but he understands, I think, their concerns now as far as what we'll get done.
What we're seeing, what they're seeing is definitely a big difference of rate. And, you know, it's like we talked there before last month. All three entities should go up at the same time, not just one, or the others stay the same on the readings. Don't make sense.
After our budget meeting, I did go down to their council meeting and talk to all of it, so I think it's gonna work out good for us. Did he mention,
He did fund, of course, he also said in the same breath, I know you're concerned that the readings are wrong, these
Right.
numbers are wrong. So that's the first thing we're going to address.
okay, next, the presentation of proposed budget. That's the fiscal year end 2019.
Attached, you have there the proposed budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. This proposed budget plan was reviewed by the Town Council at a budget work session on May the 8th, 2018. The proposed general fund budget is balanced with no increase in property tax rates for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. The present rates will remain at 19 cents per $100 of assessed value for real estate and 35 cents per $100 of assessed value for personal property. No tax increases are proposed. The general fund budget reflects a total decrease of $12,846. This includes a decrease in real property tax fund due to the most recent reassessment and a reduction in the reimbursement of previous revenue transfers to the utility fund. The budget reflects a significant increase of 12.8% in health insurance premiums. The proposed budget includes funding of annual debt retirement for the new fire station, the T-21 project, grant funds for one new police cruiser and one part-time school traffic officer. The utility fund budget is balanced with a proposed increase in sewer service rates and no proposed increase in water or garbage collection service rates. The budget includes no debt reimbursement to the general fund. The budget includes a large increase of 76.07% in sewage treatment plant charges and a decrease of 13.98% in water plant charges. The budget also includes a significant increase of 12.8% in health insurance costs. The budget includes receipt of $69,975 in grant funding from the Virginia Department of Health and $30,000 in grant funding from the Cumberland Plateau Planning District Commission. These grant funds will be used for water system improvements and a sewer system study. And I have prepared a legal advertisement that will be run in the local newspaper, advertising a public hearing on the proposed budget for our next meeting to be held on June the 12th at 7:30 p.m.
And also, we was talking to the county, I mean, theirs was 3 million, right?
The county, they also have a big shortfall this year. I think it's maybe 3.7 million shortfall. And they named part of their problem is the same issue we have, is the reduction in assessed values of property with this latest reassessment. And they intend, they're going to cut costs, do possibly some layoffs. But I think the county is planning to raise real estate taxes.
Yeah, they're gonna raise real estate taxes. We're not raising, I mean, it's pretty good for our town up there. With this, everybody's going through it, we don't have to raise or increase the property tax, which I think is awesome.
And we operate under a balanced budget every year, and we fall right on our budget pretty much every year, barring some extraordinary unforeseen event. And we've had a couple rough years, but we have our bills paid and money in the bank and have kept our tax rates low, and it's made great progress year after year in the development.
Next is ordinance section 70-109, the sewer rates.
Be it ordained by the Council of the Town of Cedar Bluff, Virginia, that section 70-109 of the Town Code be amended to read as follows. Section 70-109 sewer rates. A, the monthly sewer rates for users who are located within the town and who are connected to the sewer system of or maintained by the town shall be $20 for any town water system consumption up to 2,000 gallons and $1 per 100 gallons or fraction of 100 gallons thereafter. The monthly sewer rates for users who are located outside the town and who are connected to the sewer system of or maintained by the town shall be $25.60 for any town water system consumption up to 2,000 gallons and $1.28 per 100 gallons or fraction of 100 gallons thereafter. C, for purposes of subsections A and B, any residential users whose water consumption is not drawn solely from the town water system shall be deemed to have consumed 4,200 gallons of water per month from the town water system. And this, I think the last time, a couple years ago, we had a water rate increase. We waived second reading and adopted this under emergency clause to take effect on July 1, 2018 and apply to any charges payable on or after July 1, 2018.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to waive the second reading?
I'd make
And
a
adopt.
suggestion that you just have a second reading next month.
Just put it back on the
Yeah,
agenda.
because you got your budget coming up next month.
Okay.
Well, last
If
time we
there's
were
any
able to
changes
just
that you make in the budget or whatever, you haven't already carved this and stuff.
Okay. So it'll be tabled till next month?
No,
We'll just put it back on the agenda for a
it
second
comes
reading.
back on next month for a second reading.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Well, that we don't really need a motion, we'll just do that. And that's the way my inclination was to do it that way, but I look back 2 years ago and we adopted it at this meeting, as I said, so anyway, we'll put it back on, yeah.
Okay. Town manager report?
In your packet, might be the very last sheet. Yeah, if you look at the very last sheet in your packet, there's a request from Cedar Bluff Elementary School principal for a donation. It says she's inquired about a monetary donation to Cedar Bluff Elementary School to purchase teachers a nice gift for Teacher Appreciation Week. And that was, I think, last week. They're trying to celebrate and honor their staff. And she said she was trying to raise $1,500 to buy the staff green staff a nice jacket with Cedar Bluff Elementary School embroidered on the front. And she asked that I bring that up tonight to see if we could make a contribution toward those expenses. And we did budget, I think $650 we had in there for other things. It wasn't line item for contributions. I think we've given maybe $100 of that, so we do have a few $100s in that fund.
1,600, what you said?
No, she just said they were trying
How much did you say we had?
we had budgeted $650 just for other miscellaneous, and I think we've only allocated $100 of that.
I'll make a motion that we give them $200 for.
I'll second. Second.
Uh,
Aye.
Also, Linda Singleton wanted me to say to you that she was pleased with the townwide yard sale and flea market and cruise in that we had, and she's looking forward to having that event again next year. And also, the Clinch River Kayak Club is doing a Clinch River float on Sunday, May the 27th at 1:30 p.m. The launch site will be here in Cedar Bluff, and the end point will be in Richlands, very similar to the float that we had last year. So if you're interested in that, I can get you the information, who to contact, but it'll be Sunday, May the 27th, 1:30 p.m., Clinch River Kayak Float. That's it.
Okay, next is the payment of bills. Any questions on the bills?
Make a motion to pay bills.
Jerry, did you have a question? Oh, motion, Senator. Got a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
uh,
Okay, next is town department reports.
I have the monthly report from the Cedar Bluff Police Department. They answered 21 calls, they made 31 traffic stops, wrote 19 summons, had 12 verbal warnings, or issued 12 verbal warnings, worked 2 traffic accidents, conducted 1 traffic check, detail patrol, and they patrol 3,376 miles for the month.
Yeah, we probably don't brag on y'all enough, but man, y'all are good. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, I ain't never, of course, I ain't never mayored any other town, but
They are
as soon
good.
as we,
They're doing a good job.
That's a lot of work.
yeah, y'all do
It's a lot
great.
of work.
And you know, I've never worked with anybody else either, but they, I mean, not that y'all aggravate me, but, you know, y'all are men enough to do your job, you don't have to ask for permissions and all this, I think it's awesome. So that Danny about got me the other day, 47 and 45. He pulled me over, I don't know what for, I was like, I'm just going 2 miles over.
And I appreciate the comments. I try to relay to them that they're very appreciated and doing a good job, so we really do
Are
appreciate
you
it.
pretty happy coming on with these guys down here?
Yes, sir.
Well, you do a good job too, that's awesome.
Mike's doing it.
I second that.
You got a report, please?
And by the way, Sean, today is police officers, you hung the wreath on the front door.
Memorial.
Police
Memorial Day.
Officer Memorial Day, so.
Do you have a report, Drew? Do you have a report?
No, I didn't get one.
Okay, you got
I
one?
was on utility, repaired one main line leak on Shannon Heights, flushed the sewer main on Lawson Lane, started the Farm Road project, installed 380 feet of 2-inch line, made a 2-inch tap, I don't know what that'd be related to.
Right. That's it.
Installed a 2-inch valve, installed one centimeter. Have we had centimeters before, or just centimeters?
That, these are, part of that project, that
Oh, they do?
the valve and the connection.
I've been visiting.
Okay, no more town department reports. Next is unfinished business.
I'd like to make a motion, out where we repair our vehicles, our workshop. We need a fence down the main road there. I'm seeing cars sitting there on the weekend inside that fence, or inside where there should be a fence. There is no fence to fence off our maintenance department out there.
So you,
I'll make a motion that we consider getting a fence built down through there.
With post and chain, with locks?
Post and
be good?
chain would be good, anything, keep them out. I went in there the other day and I've been in there 4 times and 3 of them, cars were in there. The other day I went in there and I'm not grumbling about it, but we had tools laying outside that anybody could have picked up. And, we need that fenced off to keep people out there.
Rick has expressed concern.
If someone went in there and got hurt on an off day, we could end up with a lawsuit, big time.
Good idea, I'll second.
I think it needs fence up and then signs put up. No one to enter into there on off-duty times.
probably need to post it too.
Was that a motion, Johnny?
Sir,
A motion to do that?
I make a motion that we do that, yes.
I'd like to make an amendment to that motion, that we put it on the agenda for next month to be voted on. Is this an emergency situation? Or is this something that can be put on the agenda to be voted on?
That's on y'all.
What was that again?
He's wanting to table this and put it on the agenda for next month, or is this emergency that we need to go ahead and do it tonight? What he's asking.
You've got a motion second, so you get to vote.
Why do you want to
He's
table?
changing it.
Because this is in unfinished business, it's not on the agenda per se, it's because we have a motion voted.
But I got a motion on the floor from Johnny. Did I have a second on it?
Jerry
Yeah.
said-
Jerry second. Okay, so now we'll vote.
Aye.
I like the idea of bringing up business to be voted on that can be on the agenda.
Okay,
I'd like to,
we're voting now.
I know it,
So I need a yea or nay.
but y'all see my concerns and my desires. I mean, if it's emergency, yeah, we need to take care of it. If it's an emergency, it needs to be, how many years it's gone without a fence. And I know I'm out of order because we're not discussing any longer. I say yes.
Yes.
We have suggested that we not vote on an item that's not on the agenda unless it's an emergency. I concur with James, I'll say no tonight, but we should have it. We should have it done, not vote tonight, we know.
No?
We put it on the table for next week.
I vote yes.
How about no?
Okay, now what were the votes again?
Yes, 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 no, yes, no. So yes as well.
And if we post and chain that, that should be very minimal cost to do that. In fact, we might have some material.
Hardly any, and I will, consent to putting it to next month, although somebody could fall tomorrow, and, they won't put that lawsuit off to next month.
Well,
It may, nobody may never fall.
That's the reason,
But
Mr.
you got a
Chairman,
lot
I
of
asked
stuff
for,
out there.
I asked for it to be, clarified whether it was an emergency vote or whether we could put it on to the next
I don't
one.
know if it's emergency, I don't know what somebody may
And,
fall.
Will the chain keep anybody out from being on there? No, you're looking at a chain link fence, some kind of security, cameras and so forth.
We may need to look.
So that's big things, that ain't a $10 fix. Sir,
I'll go with the 10-foot wall.
Terry, is it posted on the building?
Posted, it's posted, then whether it's there or not, still, it'll help us, but the votes are in, so we're good. Is there any more unfinished business? Anybody? Okay, new business? No new business. Next is the closed session. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
uh,
Aye.
I seconded it.
I said,
Monthly report back to you.
You got it. She said her dad.
You don't call it
He's a lot of intelligence. I strongly suggest.
I lost it, I know, he's got it.
Well, we can find a way to take care of it.
Hopefully.